Thank you all so much for coming on back to another episode of the Transcribecast Redux, where we talk not only about vocal training and vocal dysphoria, but we help people that just want to be a better voice actor or want to work on their voice. It doesn't matter if you're trans, cis, non-binary, nowhere, everywhere. All that matters about this podcast now is helping people feel comfortable with how they sound. And with me today, I have the lovely Alicelunazera.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Would you like to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Alice. I am a trans wolf witch VTuber. I stream and I make YouTube videos. And I mean, pretty much all the videos I do are all like trans meme react videos, but also just like kind of talking and discussing about my experiences or different thoughts about whatever related to queer or trans experiences. And like an ongoing effort to try to make spaces that are comfy and, you know, welcoming and inclusive to other people.
That's fucking based. That's fucking based of you. Oh wait. Yeah, it's been over. I just had to take a look at the recording time and be like, is it over a minute?
Yeah, can we swear now? Can I swear?
Yeah. Oh, Slimelton, let me get the lurk command ready for you, because the bot's still like logging in. I have set up a new bot so that you guys can use the lurk command and it will play a specific message for you.
Oh.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I just sometimes forget that the bot takes a while to load up. So yeah, if you want to do a lurk command, you can do a lurk command. Thank you so much for lurking. It's so nice to have you. Hi, TGV. So yeah, if you wanna lurk, this is what comes up now.
Oh.
Hi, Mish.
Cute.
But to everyone that's come on in, whether you're here to stay, heading on out, here to lurk, or just enjoy your time shortly within the library, thank you so much for being here. Alice, thank you so much for agreeing to be here today.
Yeah.
In today's episode, we're talking about listening to yourself. Sorry, I'm going to be coughing a lot because the air quality shit today.
Oh no.
Today we're talking mostly about listening to yourself back and like how to handle hearing yourself and how to approach improving from that. Right? That's what you...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what was on my mind the last couple, like, week or two.
Well, let me start by asking, do you have any experience vocal training?
No, not really. Like, I have understanding of how vocal training goes and like what the kind of biomechanics are involved in like changing your voice or like pushing your voice in different places. Like I know that, like, you know, it's all about or a lot of it comes down to the size of your oral cavity. So you want to like do things if you want to have a higher voice or like at least a higher resonance, you want to try to like make your oral cavity smaller, like by raising your trachea, not by like maybe like squeezing your voice, say with like raising your tongue too much, because then you get kind of squeaky voices. So like I understand like that part, but I've never done like proper voice training myself, and like my voice has definitely changed over the last couple of years, but that's more been like a very slow process of pushing my voice up, I think, to where like I don't have a different voice to put on. This is just how I generally sound.
To get this far with no professional coaching and like no like big lessons or anything like that, more power to you.
Oh, thank you.
Also, welcome on in, Tawny. And yeah, Mish, absolutely. I love doing this podcast. I love having new people on. I love chatting with people and being like, hey, let's talk about whatever topic's on your mind, or let's talk about this focused topic. I'm here to help as many people as I can, because I know how I know how rough it can be to be on your own for this, and I know how financially rough it can be to...
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Mark. To
Oh, hi, Mark.
pay for lessons. Thank you guys so much for the follows. Hi, Avaris, and... Hold on. Melkorn Brat, thank you so much for the lurk. Enjoy your time here.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hello.
Like, for me...
Hi, Varys.
The price of vocal coaching has just been so much, right? Like, have you seen how pricey some lessons can be?
Yeah.
$100
Yeah.
for a lesson for an hour?
Yeah, it's a lot.
So, as I've said, this is the mission statement I have with this podcast. If I can use this weird vocal talent of mine to help anyone and everyone with their own vocal dysphoria, I'm going to put 120% of myself into it. Whether you want
That's incredible.
Whether you want to overcome a stutter, accents, just do some feminization or masculinization, I'm here for you. And today's episode is kind of a rough one because it's a lesson we must all handle, and a lesson that is difficult for people. Alice, you wanted to talk about listening to yourself back and how to handle hearing yourself, right?
Yeah, because like getting feedback is important, I think, if you're trying to work on any sort of skill.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Especially with your voice. You know, like you kind of need to know how your voice is sounding to know like how to keep changing or improving on it. But that's hard when you don't like your voice, and when you're listening back to your voice, it really hurts.
Yeah. Like, when I started out and I was listening back to myself, I'm like, man, I don't sound great as a streamer, but I'm happy people think that I sound nice. And as I've gone through it and listened to myself back, I'm like, this just sounds like me now. This just sounds like me. And now if I listen back to myself from like 2 years ago, I'm like, this just sounds like someone trying to sound like me. So, what's been your experience with it? Like, how have you handled it? How have you, like, started to tackle the problem?
Oh, hi, Mark.
Well, like, really I tackled the problem by kind of pushing my way through it and forcing my way through it, but like, kind of out of necessity. And a lot of that came down to video editing, because I've been like doing YouTube related things for kind of a while. Well, before I started doing the Transme videos as Alicelunazera, many years ago, I was trying to do stuff on YouTube on like a different channel, and that involved like, you know, scripting out things that I would then like try to read the voice lines for, and then have to edit my voice across multiple takes where like I messed up every other word, and so I would need to stitch together a sentence from like 4 or 5 different attempts to say the sentence.
Oh god.
Yeah, no, I was really bad. And yeah, I had to listen to my voice a lot, and yeah, that kind of got like forced my way through exposure that way. It did get...
Sorry, just got raided.
Oh, hello.
Welcome on in, Raiders. Welcome. Thank you so much,
Oh, hi,
Desmond
Mark.
Dracula. Let me just pause the recording here so I can address everyone really quick. And Ellis, what would you say is the hardest hurdle to, or what would you say is the biggest hurdle to listening to yourself back?
Like, for me, it's always comes back down to dysphoria, and it's oddly been something that like I'd gotten over before, but then got harder again, I guess, after I started transitioning and after I started like, you know, taking more steps to present how I want to and present in the way that I want to, and started not just, I guess, conceding with like what I was given or what I was defaulting to before, right? That made like finding either inadequacies or finding like that I wasn't able to sound or use my voice the way I wanted it to harder afterwards. So like, it's still hard, honestly, to get past that. And definitely like on different times if I go to do video editing and record, like I kind of just can't, because I I'm really self-critical of how I sound, and I really just don't like it. It actually makes me like really upset. Which also means that it becomes very difficult to actually get video editing work done because some days I can't listen to my voice.
I understand what you're going through, because like when I started my vocal training, like when I started going through coaching and all that, like when I started my journey, I was just kind of like mumbly, kind of like nasally, kind of in this range all the time. Like I didn't do a lot of talking, and I never thought I would get out of. I never thought I would get out of this. I never thought I would be. I never thought I would be able to nut, apparently. Thank you, Shaddox, for the poorly timed nut, as always. I never thought I would be able to nut. What fucking timing?
Incredible.
Remember, if you say something funny on stream, you can use the exclamation point clip to just grab a quick clip. But yeah, like I've always said, I never thought I would be able to get out of this range. I never thought I would be able to. I never thought I'd be able to be. I never thought I'd be able to reach here, let alone anything I'm able to do now. And a lot of that came from basically having to sit down, record myself, and then listening back to myself and giving myself my own tips and pointers. And I can understand the stress that comes from, hey, I don't sound good to myself, but other people say I sound good. And like, the biggest thing for voices should be your own self-affirmation. That should be the end goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because like, I still get a lot of people who say they like my voice and they like how I sound, and on different days I can like take that in more, and other days I can't. But like ultimately, like I still want to improve more. I still want to like find more range or more control. And if I'm not satisfied with my own voice, it kind of doesn't matter as much what other people say, because it doesn't break through that feeling and that self-evaluation.
Yeah, because... Ooh, sorry. You could be your own worst critic.
Yep.
I think the best thing that I've discovered when trying to do that is look at it objectively as a milestone. Think that you're like walking down a nature trail, right? See, so you're going for like a big long nature hike. There's going to be checkpoints. There's going to be stops where you could stop along this trail here. And the trail might be cyclical, or it might like wind back in on itself. Like you might spend 5 miles walking along this giant loop and come back to a second checkpoint that's closer to the first checkpoint, and you could be like, hey, look at how far I've come. I can see where I've come from. I can see exactly where I just came from, and that's a lot.
Mm-hmm. Which actually, listening back to recordings of myself from like a couple of years ago does help, actually, because there is a difference. It's not maybe like a huge difference, but I can definitely hear, like I was watching back clips earlier this week, and like when I first started streaming, and like it's because the way that my voice has evolved, there isn't like a huge difference. Like I still pretty much talk with the same kind of cadence, I think. I maybe just am more like expressive and use more intonation with how I talk. But like I'm around the same like pitch register, I think. But they're definitely like, it definitely sounds really different and almost like a different person talking. And if I go back to like 2019 and 2020, and especially if I go back to like my older videos from 2016, those just sound like my voice is really dark and it's just not me. So that helps to like at least get the kind of milestone, be able to see like, yeah, no, I actually have improved, or my voice doesn't sound the way it did so long ago.
I can understand that. Like, the big thing should be if you're in the middle of training and not just like listening to yourself from like way in the past, if you're in the middle of training and like trying to listen back to yourself from like 5 minutes ago and be like, okay, what can I do to improve? That should be your thought process. And I've started this thought process for my writing and artwork as well. It's like, I'm proud of what I made here. I'm proud of what I made. But I'm not going to be married to this. What can I do to improve just a little bit? If only by a single %. What can I do to improve a little bit? In my mind. Like, for me, when I was starting out, I listened to myself back and thought, how can I make myself sound more smooth? Not just, like, more feminine, because there's, gravelly feminine voices, there's super smooth masculine voices. And for me, like, I wanted to get away from, like, this mumbly, gravelly voice. I wanted to get away from this. And I just kept recording myself and, like, every week trying to give myself a goal of, like, okay, try to sound a little more smooth, try to sound a little more gentle, like, intonate a little softer. And that's, like, that was, like, the biggest help for me, like, thinking small steps ahead, as opposed to trying to take the giant leap, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a process. It is a very long process to feel comfortable with how you sound. Even I still have days where I listen back to myself and been like, man, I didn't sound femme at all, but other people are like, hey, you sound perfectly fine, Index. And that's like the biggest thing I can say about listening to your recordings and, like, thinking how you can improve from them.
Yeah, so just like listening back and then seeing what small ways you can improve. Like what's the one step you can take maybe?
And another big thing would be have a goal in mind. Do you have a character from cartoons, anime, a movie? Do you have a character or person whose voice you look up to and want to try and emulate a little bit of? That could be a goal. And then just trying to record yourself doing an impression of them and, like, seeing how close to them you sound like. There's always... You first.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, you saying that, I'm realizing I don't think I've ever thought of that before. For how I talk, or even when I'm listening back to myself, like, if I'm evaluating myself and not liking how I sound, I don't usually have as much of a solid goal or an idea of what I'm trying to get to, maybe.
Yeah, and that's kind of like how I started my journey as well. Like, I wanted to sound more like, let me grab her. I wanted to sound more like Carrie Keranen. Because she is the voice actor for Lux in League of Legends. She's also the voice actor for Sarah Valstein in Trails of Cold Steel. She also voices the Twin Wardens in Persona 5. And all of her voice roles are just her voice, just with just slightly different changes that they all sound like different characters. Like, for a big example, in Persona 5, she voices 3 characters that all sound like they're related, but they all sound like different people.
Oh.
So, one of the big tips that I would have to say is pick a character or person whose voice you admire. Use them as a goal. Maybe do an impression of them. And then record yourself doing an impression of them. Listen back to that recording and take notes of, okay, so I sound a little bit like them here, but I could maybe work on my nasaliness, or maybe I could work on my graveliness. Also, be safe, Bridge, please. Hi, King Chaos. Thank you for the first time chat. So, like, that's one of my big tips as well.
Yeah, that's a really good tip.
And another big tip I will have for listening back to yourself in recordings and all that. Understand that... Hi, C! How you doing?
I see, Chris.
One of the big things I will have to say for listening back to your recordings is understand it's not just your recording voice you want to be comfortable with. but also your natural voice, like the voice you hear yourself with. Like, I know my recording voice doesn't sound the same as what I'm talking with right now, but I'm comfortable with this. And I cannot stress this enough. The be-all, end-all goal shouldn't be, oh, I sound great on this recording. Oh, I sound great doing this. It should be, I feel comfortable talking as myself. I'm happy being me. But because voice is like one of the first identifiers for us, it can be a big source of dysphoria.
Yeah.
And sadly, listening back to yourself can cause bigger dysphoria spikes. But you can use those to challenge yourself and change and be better.
Yeah,
Am I making a lick of sense right now?
No, you are. I'm sorry. I was like thinking of actually very deeply what you're saying, because like, yeah, definitely getting to the point where I just feel comfortable with my voice in general has been just like talking has been like a huge problem. And I think I was thinking about this earlier, or trying to like word this better at some point earlier today, but like well before I started streaming and before YouTube really, I was like when I was in grad school and through university, I was, getting comfortable doing presentations. Because that's a big part of academia is, you give presentations, you give talks, you maybe sit in front of a poster in a big convention, and then you just kind of give your 5-minute spiel to people who walk by. And I kind of like, at some point got used to that process and got comfortable talking in that context, which is like a presentation voice. But that didn't make me comfortable speaking. I still really struggled to speak comfortably or just like kind of talk freely with ease. And that's really only something that I learned through streaming, honestly. And is one of the reasons why I started getting into streaming and like wanting to like push myself to stream when I first started, is because I wanted to get comfortable with my voice. I wanted to get comfortable just being able to talk and not constantly, I guess, hold myself back or just struggle with that. Which I guess came down to putting myself in a position where like I was just talking a lot.
Yeah.
And over time getting used to just talking with my voice and not thinking as much about
The ancient art of yapping.
Yeah. The ancient art of yapping. Yeah, I learned how to yap. I still only really yap on stream. I'm very not yapative. That's not a word.
And yeah, Dune, you make a very strong point. Every single little hurdle, even if they're negative and dysphoria hurdles, can be used to your advantage, so long as you're not like harmful. Like, hey, I'm gonna use this in spite of myself and improve in spite of myself, improve in spite of my stress, improve in spite of my doubts. Because I know I can improve. I know I can make a change. But aside from all of that, what is your personal self-care routine for your voice?
Oh, good question.
There's so much more that goes into this besides just talking and talking and talking. Because if you're trying to straighten your voice and change your voice to something you're not used to, you have to be aware of self-care.
I am unaware of self-care.
So, one of the things I will recommend while you're streaming, have maybe a Gatorade or something if you like start getting super thirsty. Nothing super sugary or syrupy. Room temperature water.
Right, so just keep drinking water.
Yeah, because the room temperature water will just like keep you hydrated, but not cause any contraction or expansion.
Oh, right, because it's cold.
Yeah, after stream,
right.
Some tea with honey.
Oh, okay.
And
Hey,
you first?
Oh, just I guess because the warm water effectively will like kind of help relax muscles.
Yes.
Is that the idea? Okay.
I'll get to that in just a second, Mish. Because the other thing about self-care that I need to make sure people understand is this. I cannot stress this enough. If you're doing intensive training to try and change your voice and you feel the slightest bit of strain in your throat, dial it back. Because if you strain your throat and you strain your vocal cords, you can develop polyps on them. And polyps are essentially scars on your vocal cord that you will need laser surgery to remove. Or, some very finite, specialized surgery to remove, which can be invasive, harmful, and expensive. Especially if you're getting into streaming or voice acting. Be aware of when you are starting to hit a limit and, take a moment to step away, have some water, go a little nonverbal, take care of yourself.
Is there a way that you can kind of tell if those are developing, or is there any tells to?
I don't know.
That?
I may have developed some and not realized it because I still 2 years into streaming, I start having some troubles talking at times, and I might need to get checked for that. But I have broken my vocal cords once, and for a week straight. It felt like I was trying to gargle a fiberglass smoothie mixed with some cactus needles.
Ooh, ow.
If that imagery doesn't, scare you away from straining your vocal cords, yeah. Yes, you can technically break your voice. This is a muscle you're working. It's a muscle and tendon that you're working. Just like working out in the gym, you can strain your muscles.
And really what's happening when you're talking is you're just pushing air through two flappy folds that are vibrating, so those can probably tear.
Yep. Index, do you have any advice on how to be less self-conscious that someone will overhear me recording my voice? Mish, for that question, I will say if someone's going to give you shit for just recording your voice and trying to be a better trying to be a little more comfortable with yourself, fuck them. Just say, hey, I'm trying to be happy. I'm trying to be happy here, and you can go fuck off. Your happiness is what comes first.
I will say I also struggle with that too, and it's not even a matter of, or it's oftentimes for me at least, it's just an anxiety problem, or it's just an anxiety issue that I have of taking up space. So it's not even. I've struggled a lot with just having to break past that, if trying to do things where I'm being heard, but also not having an internal not wanting to be heard by anybody around me, and not wanting to get in their way. But yeah, no, it's hard, but I can imagine there could probably be different sources or reasons why different people might struggle with that. But mine was always anxiety.
Yeah, and that can be a big wall and a hurdle to overcome. And the thing for that is just think more about how happy you will be. Think about the happiness you want. Use that as your fuel to push through the anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we have an ad break starting in 5 minutes, and I have no more snoozes, so just to let y'all know, a 3-minute ad break is coming in 5 minutes, and if you want to avoid the ads, the best way to avoid ads is with an Amazon Prime subscription or by subscribing to the channel for $6 or more. Do make sure that you're subscribing through desktop now, because mobile subs are going to be going up, because why not? Thanks, Google.
Thanks, Google.
But thank you all for being here so far. If I had more snoozes, I would use them. Avaris has a question. Do you have advice for getting past the I don't sound how I hear myself barrier? Do you have any tips on that, Alice?
I mean, on one level, or like, you will never sound how you hear yourself because just physically, you're hearing, you will always hear yourself filtered through your body. And that's not how anybody else will hear your voice. So like on one level, it's just like some understanding or like trying to get internalized a bit that like that will never be the case, and nobody experiences that. And that doesn't mean that your voice sounds bad. It's just you're gonna always, if you hear yourself back, it'll just sound different from what you're actually hearing in your head. And also that like that it tends to be that like that difference makes people feel negative, but that it's not necessarily a negative. Like it's not necessarily a bad thing that those things sound different. It's just different.
I think the biggest thing would be to just coming to accept that you like how you sound to yourself. Like that's the big thing. I like how I sound to myself. I know how I sound to myself doesn't sound how you guys hear me, but you guys say you like how I sound, and I like how I sound. That's the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate goal of peace and zen that you need.
Mm-hmm.
I like how I sound. People like how I sound. Everybody's happy.
Also, when people might tell you that like if anybody tells you they like your voice, even if it sounds different from how you hear your voice, or like even if you know there's a difference there, if somebody else says they like your voice, that's a valid opinion and thought that they have of your voice. It's not like it can be hard to internalize that, but you know, take other people's word for it a little bit if you can.
Yeah. And that's kind of like the biggest thing that, and this ties back into today's topic of listening back to yourself. Someone says they like how you sound, record yourself. See how you sound to other people. Think to yourself, okay, I like that. Or think to yourself, okay, how can I do a little improvement from that? The only time anyone's ever told me they like my voice is when I lost my voice at one point and had a super deep, scratchy voice. Oh, I'm sorry, Alvarez. Well, just know that, like, if you keep doing, like, some vocal training and, like, doing your warm-ups and doing your scales and practicing and all that, you'll start to feel more comfortable with how you sound. Like, even if you're not changing your voice, there's something to be said about just doing your vocal warm-ups and practices. You know, like red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather, she sells seashells down by the seashore, and like doing your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You just doing your scales without having like the stepping thing that we always talk about. Doing those little things are a great way to just start feeling more comfortable with how you sound. When I edit my voice for voiceovers in my videos, I tend to cut out all the breathing sounds and mouth sounds. Do other people do this? Is it overkill? Is there an easy way to get most of... I would say try and get a pop filter, Tawny. Or get a microphone with a built-in pop filter. Like really, the best way to get around that is through treating the sound that you're recording as you're recording it. It might just be a matter of like finding a different position for your microphone, honestly. Like rather than talking directly into your microphone, talk like right off to the side, so that a lot of the the mouth sounds that might be happening aren't going directly into the microphone. Pop filters are good, and on top of that though, like you can put like filters and things as you're recording, or you could do it in post too. But like add in noise gates. Add in EQs that will like try to minimize specifically those ranges. Cut
cutting out the sounds, like, yeah, I do that too. You gotta have to be a little careful at times, because like it's very easy to make like cut out the sound and then have like a very like kind of obvious like absence of sound that can be very abrasive in itself. So you kind of have to like balance it a little bit. Also, something to keep in mind when you're editing, when you're cutting out different like in between sounds, you can just like, put the pieces of whatever you're saying together, but that like could be sometimes good to leave that space there still. Like, you have the silence, but you don't have to make everything tighter or make everything faster, because that part where you're breathing or you stop to breathe, that is part of your natural cadence and just how you're talking. And if you kicked it away, that can then make the kind of break the flow of how you're speaking, make it sound energetic, which maybe is what you want, but like it might push it in a weird way.
Yeah, and if you have, if you're doing like a professional recording and all that, that's just what the post-editing processing is for. Especially if like you're going into someone's like studio to do your recording. Like if you're going into a professional studio to do some voiceover recordings, they should have someone behind the booth that's like all set up while you're in the cage doing your voices and like whatnot, and they'll have like the pop filter, they'll have all the post editing, and they'll do all sorts of stuff. Alice, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What advice would you give to people who want to do any sort of recordings, but are scared to hear themselves back? What advice would you give to people?
So, I hesitate to just say like, push yourself, because that's not often what you want to do. Because like, especially like depending on how you're feeling emotionally and like how much you're able to take in on any given day, that can actually be pretty harmful. But ultimately, like, you're gonna have to at some point get past that, or like slowly get yourself past that, at least to the point where you can hear it, if you want to be able to edit your voice. Unless you just find somebody else to edit, which then you're basically saying, you're not gonna look at it, which is totally fine to do. But if you can't do that, take it slow. Like, acknowledge that it's hard. Acknowledge that it's gonna feel bad, and acknowledge that some days you aren't gonna be able to do it. But if you have a goal of what you want to do in mind, in terms of, you're editing, you recorded some voiceover for like a video or for something that you're doing, and you need to edit it, you need to like work with it, right? Like, you have a goal to finish that, just take it a little bit, and if it gets too much, then stop, like go do something else. Try to check in with yourself emotionally, and hopefully, like, as you expose yourself to that, it'll get easier every time.
Yeah. And like what Seahorse says as well. Like, here's a big example. Here's a blast from the past. Y'all remember Chocolate Rain? Y'all remember that classic meme video, Chocolate Rain?
Mm-hmm. That's an old one now. Wow.
You know how he always leans away from the mic every so often? Like in between short verses? That's him taking a breath. That's him taking a moment to breathe. Like, remember your physical positioning. Like, if you need to take a moment to breathe and all of that, or like if your microphone's on your left, lean to the side, breathe through the right side of your mouth, and just be like, okay, now we're back.
Like, Tawny, you might not have heard this part when you were on ads, but one of the things I also said was like, maybe rather, if you're talking directly into your microphone, talking like just off to the side of your microphone can actually be like help a lot with that. So just like mic positioning, try changing your mic positioning.
Yeah, and there's like a lot of editing and whatnot that you can go into just to make sure that like all the sort of background noise isn't picked up and whatnot. Like I have my microphone literally an arm's length away from me, like maybe a couple of feet, and you guys can hear me fine.
Yeah, I have like my microphone is in front of me, but it's just to the left of my mouth, and maybe like a hand in front of me. So I'm talking towards the screen, and my microphone is just off to the side of me. So it's like not tucked in directly into it, but it is still pretty close.
But if I want to get closer to the microphone, I can just scoot closer to my desk and be like,
all right, and now we're going to have the deep ASMR session. We'll come on in, booklets, and we're going to have a nice little time in the quiet corner.
Oh, the quiet corner, huh?
yeah. So there's like a lot that can be done. Zelfie, I will handle that bara in a bit, because I don't want to scare people. Alice, do you know what a bara is?
I don't. Is it? I mean, I'm assuming it's similar to like ara.
It's like an ara, but it's a +1 ara. So what you do for a bara is you start off, putting your hands together and stretching them out in front of yourself like you're about to crack your knuckles.
Okay.
Take a deep breath as you bring your arms up overhead. As we're doing this lovely, lovely yoga circle, you bring your fist into open palm and flex your arms as if you're about to burst out of your shirt anime style and...
Bara, Zelfie-san! Bara!
Wow.
Hi, Mambina. I fucking love doing the bara.
Yeah, that's great.
That like I have ara set to 2,000 channel points, and I literally wanted to make bara a like +1 extra, so I made it 2001.
I just noticed that.
Back on topic though, before we get a little sidetracked. Who's a very well-endowed cat girl vampire witch on screen with you? This is Alicelunazera.
I'm not that well endowed.
I mean, you do have an extremely enormous, bountiful tail.
Thank you. I'm very proud of my tail. I mean, yeah, actually, I am endowed with a very big tail. Hi, I'm a wolf girl. This does look very vampire-like, though. I will give you that.
You have to wait.
This pixel art.
Well, let me just give you a regular shout-out then.
Well, thank you.
What I'm telling you is she's got enormous tracts of land.
You were referring to the tail. Oh, good. Oh, you weren't. Oh, well.
Lumbina's silly at times.
Well, thank you.
I do love your Fugi though. It's like the pixel art is chef's kiss.
Thank you. This art was like by an artist named Brythe Wolf, who had originally done me just like some fan art or fan pixel art like a couple months back, and then I saw that she had commissions, and I was like, hey, could I like commission you for like this? Because I really like what you do, and I wanted to like support an artist who did a thing for me.
That's super cool. I have another big topic question for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Do you want to talk about any like big experiences you've had during your journey, mostly on the topic of listening back to yourself and like listening to your recordings? Any like big experiences, good or bad, that like have helped you grow?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Because even the bad experiences can help you grow. Sometimes they can help you grow even more.
I mean, like, there's definitely I have a lot of moments that like stuck with me, and moments like not even like big things happening of just but more just like hearing my voice back at some point and kind of unexpectedly, and that having a negative impact on me. But then like from that, going back to what you were saying before about, like using, I guess your dysphoria or like things that you aren't feeling great about to your advantage. A lot of those little moments, ultimately I wanted to keep pushing forward with whatever I was doing because I didn't want to give up and I didn't want to let that kind of control me.
Yeah. Especially when you can use that in the face of dysphoria, in spite of what's holding you back.
Basically, I'm a really stubborn bitch, and when like I'm faced with something like that, after I deal with after I lick my wounds and I deal with okay, that really sucked. I just want to do better, and I want to beat the thing.
I am shaking your hand on that.
Yeah.
Now, if only I can apply these lessons and tips I'm giving to people to my art and writing. But that's a future battle.
I also need to fight that battle. So I'll also shake your hand on that. Yeah, honestly, I think that just using those feelings to your advantage, not letting things beat you, being stubborn, I think has kind of served me well a lot in many cases.
Yeah.
Actually, just a little bit after I came out, because I came out on stream 2 years ago, or two and a half years ago, and after that, and after finding I started streaming after that point, and then being comfortable with how I'm streaming, I tackled a video that's on my old channel, not my new channel, that kind of just looked back at the last couple years, or last 5 or 7 years of my time on the internet, because I had this kind of thing I had to deal with or kind of reconcile with after I came out, which was I've been on the internet for a couple years, doing stuff, content creation, YouTube, and then Twitch, and most of that was not as myself. Most of that was, quote unquote boy moding, with a masculine identity and presentation, and that's still all there. And I needed to figure out, should I just delete all that? Should I go scorched earth and erase all of that and just go forward, or should I what do I do? And ultimately I ended up not deleting things because I got a thought of it being nice to see other people's timelines or other people's progress with things, and seeing that in other people usually having a pretty positive impact on me, and
it's still
being,
part of who you
inspiring, and and also it's still part of who I am. It's stuff that I did. It's stuff that I cared enough to put many hours of my life into. So I didn't delete it. But what I did do is I made a video, I have a 40-minute video where I just kind of react to just footage and things for myself from 2015 to 2022. And just kind of go chronologically in order up to the point where that, I guess, the time when that video came out, and just kind of react and reflect on things and think about, or talk about, just get my feelings out there about how I had changed, almost as a way to prove to myself that I really had changed and grown, or that I had improved, that my voice was really different. And part of that video, I found footage from when I was in high school, and I included that in there, and that was probably still I think about as kind of the hardest thing I've ever to listen back to, because the way I sounded in high school was not only extremely different, but also just kind of makes me sad in a dysphoric way, but also in I don't know, it's confusing feelings, I guess. But I guess at least including it or having it in something helped me get past that, and helped me get have it not hang over me. Is my way to beat it, I suppose.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your points on this and all that. I always love getting the perspective of other people who've been content creating or like voice stuff longer or shorter, because you can get so many different perspectives on this. And
Yeah.
like hearing that you have stuff from all the way back from 2015, which is almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Blech. Which is almost 10 years ago. Ah. Oh, it hurts to say every time. It's amazing.
I don't like thinking about it.
Hi, darling.
It is ancient years, yeah.
In the before times.
Yeah, something. I'm ancient. Not really.
Do you have any other like big experiences you'd like to share, or like anything you'd like to chat about?
I'm not sure if there's any like specific like big events or things that have happened. Like I've kind of already covered like a lot of the things that I kind of faced over the many years of, struggling to do, like even still now struggling to do video editing some days because I can't listen to my voice. About like how I am stubborn and try to not let things hang over me by beating them down somehow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Let that also be a lesson to everyone trying to do voice training and all that. Alice here, and myself, two people who have been doing voice training for quite a bit. Two people have been doing content creation for a bit. Still will listen back to old stuff, or still will listen back to recent stuff and be like, that's a dysphoria spike. So you understand that you may still have times where you have little doubts, but look at it from this perspective, that hey, I can use this as a learning experience to think, what can I do to improve a little bit? What can I do to be a little better right now?
Yeah.
2015 was yesterday. What the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
It was a
Like
decade ago.
just
So yesterday?
Phantom Pain just came out, right?
I want you guys to know that 2015 was actually 9 years ago, not 10 years ago.
Wow. Well.
Sorry,
So
see,
we have
borrow
one
and
more
Mary
year
for a
until
second. I found that's something I can do with friends and like fellow streamers. If I spend enough time talking to them, I can like start parroting them a little bit.
I mean, it makes sense if you like analyze voices.
Well,
And probably think about like how...
Lark.
I'm not sure if I do.
I've found that I can do a pretty good Liminal Lark impression, especially now that he's back from his hiatus.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, that's just like a weird talent I found that I can do. I can just start freaking parroting other people.
Mm-hmm.
Which, again, that's actually another great tip. Try doing some parrots of other people. Try doing some impressions of other people that you know, and listen back to yourself and think, okay, I kind of sound a little bit like them. I've got good control over my voice. That's like a little trick that you can use to get better control over yourself. Impressions.
Yeah, that kind of goes into what you were saying earlier as well about having goals, right? Or like having a clear image, a clear audible image in your head of like what you're trying to sound like or what you're trying to do with your voice.
Yeah. And yeah, Jaunty brings up a good thing. Like the other day, or like a couple of months ago, I was playing Goose Goose Duck with a lot of people. I did a perfect impression of Siren Skylark. And people and like I did a murder on screen while pretending to be Siren. It's like,
wow.
Oh, Siren's the killer, and I'm just sitting here cackling to myself in the background.
Wow, that's devious.
Oh yeah, devious. But yeah, like some of the big tips would be like parrots, impressions. Have a character in mind. Like that is the big one. especially if you're going to have a day where you're dedicating yourself to trying to change your voice and train your voice. Pick a day, pick a character. Spend some time recording yourself for maybe 15 minutes doing a couple of little like alliterations, speeches and whatnot. Listen to yourself back doing the impression and take notes. Take notes comparing yourself to that character and then comparing to what your recording is. Like, that's like quote unquote cheat code for that, like to quickly improve.
Well, actually, on that, because like, I have a question then.
Yes, please.
What kind of notes? Like, how do you go about evaluating your voice if you're listening back and you want to say like, okay, this didn't get quite there? Because I can do like a quick like, oh yeah, this doesn't sound right, but how do you kind of break up the little bits that you can improve on?
I'm gonna use a couple of examples then.
Okay.
You know Mark Hamill's Joker, right?
Yeah.
You know the classic, oh Bats, it's so wonderful to see you again. When I started out, I wanted to try and do that as like an impression. And I know, like, with this, I'm trying to sound a little
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi Mark. Hi Wolfie.
I try to sound a little bit more like the Joker, but then I just sound like someone completely different, so I have to work on my pitch and my tone. Like,
I can understand there's like this inherent like bubbly graveliness to the voice. But my natural voice at the time would not suit it. So I had to do like a couple of like blah, blah. I had just like doing effort sounds, which can make you sound super sus when you're doing recordings, by the way. And then just doing like a couple of like seashells down by the seashore, red letter, yellow letter, doing like the vocal warm-ups. And just like listening to myself back in recordings and being like,
alright, now I can sound a little bit more like the Joker. Great! I could go terrorize Gotham now. Excuse me for a moment.
and the same thing can be said for any other type of voice that you want to listen to yourself to, any other type of character you want to try and sound more like. And once you get like the quote-unquote mastery that people say that I apparently have, you can start like really, really fucking around. But the main thing would be to have one character in mind and understand that you might not sound exactly like them. You might not be a 100% sound like. But that can help you find your way to who you want to sound more like. Like I said, when I started out, I wanted to sound a little bit like Carrie Karanen. I know I don't sound like her, but I used her as a benchmark to start harmonizing better, to start intonating better. And like, if I absolutely want to, I can sound a little bit like her for just a little bit without putting too much stress on myself. But I'm happy in this range now. I'm comfortable here. See? Like, I don't sound exactly like who my goal was, but I found who I am through chasing that goal. If what I'm saying is making sense.
You know, it's making sense. Also, it is so fascinating just to listen to you talk and to go through different voices, so like different ways. Because, okay, I have another question about something you had mentioned just before about like just effort sounds.
Ask away.
I'm an open
Do you
book.
have? Do you have or is there like? I guess I maybe know the answer to this, but so I'm trying to figure out a way to ask this that actually makes sense. Are there good kind of, I guess, cheats or ways to get into a voice or ways to find voices, or is it like there's certain types of sounds or certain ways you can can help get you there? Because like I know, like I can't really do many impressions or even very well, but like, and if I wanted to do like a Solid Snake impression, usually you just kind of do like a
Colonel, I'm trying to sneak by,
there.
but the clap on my ass cheeks keeps alerting the guards.
Yeah, that. But usually it's like doing like the kind of like the mouse sound that he does, or the effort sound is usually what gets me most of the way there.
Yeah, that's what a lot of professional voice actors actually do. Like, once they have the character's voice given to them by the director and all that, they'll have, like, a target. They'll have what is, like, a vocal target. And they use that vocal target to start harmonizing into that voice. So, like, for Snake, it's...
All right, well, we're going to be talking about Metal Gear today. The nanomachines. And now you can start sounding like Snake by just doing a little bit of targeted harmonization for a little bit. And then you have to deal with Otacon.
Snake?
Oh, my code name is Otacon. It stands for Otaku Convention.
But yeah, that's another little quick trick. Find a harmonization. Find a harmonization target, especially if you're like especially if you're trying to do an impression of another character or another person. And vocal warm-ups are the big thing. The vocal warm-ups are the big thing, and not just like rather the yellow leather and doing alliterations. You want to make the vowel sounds with your mouth, but like exaggerated, like A, E, I, O, U. That helps get your mouth stretched and like helps you prepare for a lot of word diarrhea. Especially if you're going to be doing a character that's like doing a lot of long speeches. Especially if you're a streamer. But the biggest thing that I've always advocated is doing your scales for warm-ups. Especially if you're doing a training day, do your scales. Do like 10 minutes of your scales of like 1 to 10, 10 to 1. 1 to 10, 10 to 1. But you want to make sure it sounds like a smooth slope rather than a staircase. And what I mean by that is you want it to sound not like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You want it to sound more like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if you can make it sound smooth, you can more naturally change your voice without doing a lot of efforts. Because quickly changing your voice, when you have this level of control, is a lot easier because you're used to the smooth changes. Because you're used to the smooth changes,
You can do more abrupt changes.
Yeah, that's doing like the abrupt changes is the part that like keeps blowing me away of like, wow.
Tons of voice actors have a specific line, word, or sound they like to use to slip into voice more. Like if you want to sound like Vegeta's voice, start off doing various forms of
Kakarot!
Hold on a second. Oh, hey! Welcome on in, Eunice Babacan, and also goodbye. Let me just ban this user. So, have you noticed that a lot of bots are getting through now because they're starting to use special characters?
Yes, I had noticed that. They're putting like one dot. There's like a character that like puts a dot above one letter, and they just like alternate where. It seems pretty dumb that those are even getting through.
Yeah, Seribot is the person behind Seribot is like aware of it, and they're trying to start figuring it out. Sucks.
I thought that Twitch's system already kind of taught for variations like that, but I guess not.
No, Twitch is a small indie company. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's a small indie company. We're still in early access.
Like, is there something about that character in particular that you can't like use regex to just catch it?
I think it's like one of those Zolgo text things. You know, where it like just mashes a bunch of like erroneous characters all over one character.
Yeah.
But back on topic, do you have any other questions?
Those are those are the main immediate ones about just, I guess, like ways to get through or to help like focus, like have a target in mind or like have a goal in mind for getting a voice, like other things about how to I guess.
Like, the big thing
Yeah.
you want to do is, your vocal warm-ups. That's, like, the number one thing. Start with your vocal
okay.
warm-ups, especially, like, if you're about to do a stream. Like, just a couple of red leather, yellow leathers, seashells down by the seashore. Do your scales, do your little, like, harmonizations. But if you're doing a recording to sound and, like, trying to train yourself to sound like a little someone different, try to do, like, a target. Try and have a vocal target. Yeah, theater stuff. That's basically what... that's basically what streamers are. We're strictly for theater kids.
Yeah. Yeah, in a sense, yeah.
Oh my god,
I mean, I say
another
that, but
one.
like, wow.
Denied, and let me just...
I was gonna say in a sense, but like, no, I was in a few drama productions in high school, and that was like the best time I had in high school. So
Yeah, they're getting a lot of, like, different characters. Like, each time it's a different character with, like, a different special, like, symbol around it or something. And I noticed that.
yeah.
I'm just like, who the hell would buy viewers? Let my work speak for itself.
I have to imagine that like the business model isn't actually to sell viewers, but it's more just
It's to
fishing
fish.
attempts. Yeah, it's just getting people to click the link.
Yeah, it's getting people to click the link and give over their details so that they can take money from you.
Yeah.
But in a
Or I
professional
mean,
sense,
even just like visiting the website, it's probably dangerous.
yeah. But in a professional sense, I'm like, hey, let my work speak for itself. If people want to hit the follow button, that's on them. If people want to hit the sub button, that's on them. I'm never gonna tell people, hey, follow me, hey, sub to me. And I will also say, if you are so inclined to sub, only do so to streamers that you're comfortable with, or only do so if it's not going to financially harm you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I never understood like the thought process behind those like bots or like, hey, get viewers, get follows on this site where you can buy them, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah, it's like not enticing at all for anybody.
It's just like way too artificial. Back on topic. Let me open up the floor to anyone in the chat. Would anyone in the chat like to ask questions of myself or Alice? Or Alice, do you have any other questions?
I'm gonna get to keep thinking about other questions. I'm not sure at the moment.
Okay.
I feel like there's a question we had like while we were talking beforehand, but I'm not sure what it was anymore.
Oh.
I can say at least the reason I was thinking about feedback or getting like internal feedback for your voice and things is not just because of voice training, but also because of streaming. Because like more generally for like anybody who streams, like listening back to your own stream or just watching back your own stream can be really informative and almost be like pretty important. It's pretty important to just improve upon your stream.
Yeah.
And it's with all the same concepts or same like reasonings. It's just like get feedback about what you're doing, how things look, how things sound, and then you can use that feedback to actually change things or improve things. If you never get that feedback, you can't really actually properly adjust things, so you don't know what you're adjusting.
Give me like 90 seconds.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause the recording.
Writing and music, and I like acting and improv. Just ends up meaning I'm not like amazing at any single one, but I like doing it all.
I'm back, by the way.
Okay. Hello.
Okay, let me propose a question to all
Okay.
of y'all, everyone in the chat, and to you, Alice. Overcoming that first bit of anxiety. overcoming that first bit of anxiety of, I'm not going to sound like how I want, or I'm not going to sound good at all. How do you overcome that? How do you tackle that?
When you have rejection sensitivities for you, on top of everything else, that's very hard.
But how much more rewarding is it now that you are a little more comfortable with yourself?
It's incredibly freeing to be able to talk. Like I wouldn't be able to sit here talking with you like 6 or 7 years ago. Like this would be a nerve-wracking experience that I just wouldn't be able to do.
See, that right there. That right there. That right there, booklets. That's the goal. Just feel more comfortable and understand that, yeah, the anxiety can be a little crippling, but the main goal is, hey, I want to be happy. And I'm not going to let myself get in the way of my own happiness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, like, and again, this part's hard if you struggle with like any form of failure, but like making mistakes is important and like necessary to grow and to change it. Because if you never make the mistake, then you never have anything to grow and you never have anything to improve upon. Like you need to speak and like struggle with your voice to be able to hear your voice, to be able to improve upon it. If you'll never like be perfect right away, because you can't do that. That's not, you don't even know where you're going to with that. Yeah, mistakes are what makes us. Yeah. So like you just gotta like do it and then go from there.
I'm taking notes on that so that I can overcome my own hang-ups on my quote-unquote art style and quote-unquote writing style that people say I have. And I'm like, I don't think I have one, and I don't think they're any good. And like
that is absolutely the hardest thing with art too. Yeah. And it's the reason I have been able to like really keep up digital art the last 10 years is because like when I go to draw something or go to do something, I want to be able to just like get down what I have in my head, or like even just the idea I have down.
Exactly.
And if I can't draw it right the first time, I'm like, well, like it's garbage. But you can't.
Narcissist parent raising methods.
I
I get the feeling that you and I have a lot in common.
Possibly.
The whole if you didn't do it right, don't do it at all. Get someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah, I got that from different sources. Here and there.
But yeah, like the biggest thing with the anxiety of listening back to yourself or trying to refine any skill, whether you want to be a musician, whether you want to be an author, whether you want to be an artist, whether you want to just be a public speaker, is you being your own obstacle. Your anxiety being your own obstacle is in the way of your happiness. And think not about, oh, it's got to be perfect. Think about, oh, I'm going to have fun doing this. Think about, oh, I have fun when I'm doing this. And I can improve while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And it's like Bob Ross said, there's no mistakes, only happy little accidents. Unless it's on your taxes.
Yeah. So true. So
Hi,
true.
Summer System. The first draft doesn't have to be perfect. It's allowed to be a first draft. You can improve on something that's started. It's harder to improve something that doesn't exist. Thank you. I really need that.
Yes. Actually, I will share something that I learned from. Actually, yeah, good pen. I'll share something I learned from like writing in academia. And I can even suggest a book if you want about like a really good book about writing well and like improving your writing. But like writing is rewriting. You're not going to write it down correctly the first time, but you have to write it down in some form to be able to then edit it. Like the actual writing that you do is going to be through editing.
Yeah.
You don't expect your writing is going to be down and like perfect the first time you run through it. It's an iterative process.
Yeah.
And I think that probably rings true for a lot of forms of creativity and like improving.
That could be said so much more for people that struggle with their voice.
Yeah. Yeah, like you kind of have to like try out working on your voice, and you gotta go through that, like it sounding not right how you want it to sound, and not really getting there where you want it to be, to then iterate on it.
I know someone that gave up on their voice journey entirely. Like, they said, I'm never going to sound like a woman at all, so I'm not going to bother, and they just gave up entirely, and they're, saddened by it and upset by it, and I'm like, you can do this. I know you can. If I can do this, you can do this. And they're like, just, no, I don't want to. I give up. That's just like, you shouldn't. Because you're now in your own way of your own happiness.
Also, kind of related, I think, but I want to share something that I
Oh, hi, Mark.
kind of like a somewhat like personal battle that I had in my whole life, of like hang-ups of trying to like learn different skills, so like voice acting or like voice training, but also like art, music, any of that. When I was young, I was always like really intimidated by this idea of people having like an innate skill that I would just never have. They're like, oh, some people are maybe just born better at playing piano, or some people are just born with better memory than I have, and that just puts me at a disadvantage. And if I'm just not right for that, then I'm not gonna be able to do that. And I found that like idea very oppressive when I was like little growing up, because it made me feel like oh, I can't actually do anything, because like if I don't find the thing I'm good at, then I'm just not gonna have anything.
I mean,
or maybe I just don't have anything, but that's not actually how it works.
There are people that do like have some of that natural talent in them. Like, look at Mozart or some of the classicals, like classic people, where it's like they were super duper talented from a young age, because there was just something in them that was like wired for that. But then there's also people like Chopin, I think, who wasn't good at the beginning. But look at we know the name Chopin more than so many other composers. Like, you don't need to have that natural talent. You can refine.
Yeah, exactly.
Marcy,
and like,
oh my God, thank you so much for tier 3 for 12 months.
ooh,
Thank you.
yeah, very cool.
Yeah, like, everybody has like some natural talent for something or another. Like, everyone has natural talent for art, because we can all understand what art is. That is a talent in and of itself. As humans, the fact that we can understand and do art is a talent. And some people are a little more talented than others. But it's if you start nurturing that talent into a skill.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, like some people absolutely have like different starting places, and will have maybe just the way their brains are wired in some way, or maybe what they were exposed to as they were like really little growing up. They might just have a natural tendency towards one thing that makes it easier to get started or to work on that. But that doesn't mean that you can't do kind of whatever you want and to work on whatever you want. If you like really, really strongly are passionate about some form of art or music, or like playing guitar, piano, or voice acting, you can work on that.
Yeah.
You're not actually gate kept out of anything. It might be easier for other people, but that doesn't mean that you can't do it. Even memory, like I absolutely kind of thought, especially from like pop science or like seeing how people talked about memory, that some people just were born with better memory, and some people were born with worse memory, and then that's just kind of how you had to deal with in life. But no, it turns out that's not quite really how memory works at all.
Hi, girl.
Hello. And you can improve your memory and work on things if you kind of understand how like what's going on with memory and like how memory works. It might still be harder for you than other people, but like there's all these different things you can kind of you can change.
Yeah.
We're very malleable.
Like, any skill can be nurtured. Any skill can be improved upon. You can develop. You can keep trying and striving and all that. Just don't throw in the towel at the first hurdle.
Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions for my lovely guest or myself? Happy to answer any and all of them.
They can be more science related questions if you have
Please ask, Marcy.
any of those ready.
Yeah, what type of science do you study?
Psychology and neuroscience.
Ooh.
So I looked at every bit about how the brain works, and like a lot of it came down to like I wanted to kind of tackle some of the questions I was just talking about. It was things that had to stress me out. I just wanted to like prove to myself that hey, like maybe like, I'm capable of more things than I feel like I'm being kept from right now, or that I feel like I can't do.
I am new to the person on screen. May I ask who is and pronouns and what they are about? Well, this is Alicelunazera.
She, her pronouns. I'm a trans wolf witch VTuber. I stream and make trans meme kind of react videos on YouTube. And I have a PhD in neuroscience and psychology that I just kind of use as a, hey, I have a thing. But otherwise, I just kind of hang out and talk with people and like making comfy spaces for others.
Alice's
And then
streams are
sometimes
so
nerd out
chill.
about stuff.
I was
I'm
listening
generally
to-
very chill.
We're actually starting to near the 90-minute mark. Hell yeah.
Ooh.
A good episode. Good, thick episode.
Yeah, these are really nice talks.
Let me ask you a question, though.
Mm-hmm.
Has this been helpful today? Like, has this talk been helpful?
Yeah. No, you helped me kind of get in my head some tips of like how to maybe approach when I'm doing video recordings. To like just warm up probably is a good idea. Actually, I don't do that. I probably should. But also having like targets in mind, which might be what I need to do more when I have, because like, some days my main problem with my voice right now is not so much that I don't like how I sound, but I don't like how little control I have, because some days like my voice just is in like the wrong register, or like just isn't hitting the right place that I feel comfortable in, I can't do much about it.
Oh yeah, then the scales are going to be your friend, because that's just like, like I always say, it's like going to the gym and lifting, like doing some bench presses. The scales are going to be your little bench presses, but you're not going to be starting off bench pressing 500. You're going to be starting off with like little 10s, 20s, 50s, and see like what all you can do for your scales and like how much you can push yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because the scales are what gave me all the control. Like, a lot of people say like, oh, I did like these heat from fire from heat. I did all these like special like physical exercise and all that. For me, it was mostly just doing the scales.
Yeah,
I
doing
mastered the scales, and I'm like,
Sorry.
I have control now. Sorry, you first.
Oh yeah, sorry. The things like fire from heat from fire, or like I think Princess Lucy on YouTube at some point had a short where she also suggested like milkshakes are tasty as being also like a nice, I guess, target phrase to use to get to like find the voice, because if I want to like get my voice up a little bit, because like I think it's the tightening of the E sound probably is what does it, right? Like milkshakes are tasty. It's that it's doing that, but not using your tongue to like squeeze your voice. It's like but doing that can like help get there in the moment, but it doesn't help it stick really, because I don't have the control and range from that. I just have the single kind of place.
Yeah.
So I'm actually gonna try the scales.
And like the other big thing would be, if your throat is sore, take a day off. Don't yap. Don't talk. Like, if you can, just go completely nonverbal and give yourself a rest. Because if you stress your throat out too much, give yourself a rest day. Because those self-care days are so helpful.
I always heard that doing a Kermit impression helps build the proper muscles as well as doing scales helps find a more feminine voice.
Yeah, I can feel the change in my voice as I'm doing the Kermit.
And even listening to you do that, probably it's like with each kind of phrase you do, you kind of have to like twist your voice a little bit, right?
Yeah.
And again, you get into that kind of E sound. You're kind of like tightening at the end. So, but you're doing probably a mixture of. Sorry, I like analyzing things.
No, that's perfectly
Like-
fine.
Like whenever I think of voice training and things, I'm more thinking about like, oh, physically what's happening, like mechanically what must you be doing to actually get these kind of things. Yeah.
But yeah, with this power I can domain expansion. Swamp of Serenity.
But yeah, like the big things to take away from today's episode will be understand self-care a little more. Understand yourself. Have fun lurking, Simulton. Understand the self-care. Understand aftercare. Understand like your warm-ups. Your before, during, and after are very important. And if you're going to be doing just talking during the day, scales. If you're going to be doing targeted training, have your target phrase, have your target character, do a little practice, do some impressions, do some parroting. That's my big piece of advice to summarize this episode.
Yeah.
And I hope today's episode was helpful to you and all your wonderful chatters that have come in to say hi.
Yeah, thank you for people who came by from my streams and my community. Index page is pretty cool.
Yeah, and if you've liked the content so far and you haven't already, consider hitting the follow button. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. But if you want to share the stream or the content with your friends, be sure to give them a good book. Be sure to share a good book with them.
Oh, right, the book. If for anybody who's interested in like a good book about how to improve writing, one I really liked was called On Writing Well, by William Zinsser.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, that one it's a really easy read. Like it is written, it's one of the few like writing books that is actually written really well.
So what I've done for writing now is I like do my first draft always more like a script almost of like trying to capture the emotion of all the action that's going on, like putting in much more punctuation than I should. And then I'll go back over it and be like, okay, should remove the exclamation points and just make them periods because this isn't characters making exclamations, this is just narration. But maybe I could change up the language to make it a little more impactful here. And then I'll go through a third time and be like, okay, now that I've done the refined sketch, time for the line art. That book was helpful. That book was very helpful.
I have a copy. Cool.
Oh, sorry. Oh god, my spine. Oh, I didn't do that stretch today, I forgot.
Oh no.
I don't know if you heard that cracking.
No, I didn't come through for me.
Thank you for the hydrate and the posture check, Marcy. And the stretch. I love that Bamboo emote. I love that Bamboo emote. Alice, you have any other questions? Or does anyone in the chat have any other questions?
I don't know if I have. I don't think I have any more questions. I think you already provided a lot of guidance, honestly, for how I can do things. Cause like I said at the beginning, like my voice training journey has been like I haven't really voice trained explicitly. I've just kind of slowly pushed my voice up into a comfortable range that I like to sit in.
Well, if
But
you
that
ever
also means I
want,
don't have control. So
if you ever want to just chat and like just go over a couple little like free
I'm like I say, I always want to do these lessons for free because vocal training should not be a monetized commodity. Being comfortable with yourself should not be a monetized commodity.
yeah, and being comfortable with yourself is really important.
So yeah, if you ever want to just like chat me up in DMs, be like, hey Index, do you have any other tips of like I'm struggling with this? Like I'm always open to DMs. Especially because I consider you a friend at this point, and you know I'm always happy to help friends out.
Aw, yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Marcy, that is a good question. As far as introducing your femme voice to your friends or family, when do you think is the most appropriate way to go about that? That varies so much depending on the family.
Mm-hmm.
For example, when I shared to my grandparents, they were super supportive of it. Like my grandma was like, I kind of always knew you like weren't a normal boy, and I'm like, that's because I'm your granddaughter. And she's like, she just hugs me. My grandpa's like, does that mean you can't get over here and help me off the couch? No, well, get over here and help me off the couch. I wanna get a beer. Fucking base grandparents. But my grandmother was a little loudmouthed about it all and kind of outed me to the whole family. But the whole family supports me. My parents, on the other hand, are a different story. So it's, you know, it's risky to understand when the proper time to do it is, and understand like maybe find someone in your family who's like much more based and like more understanding of it. Whereas if you got a super alt-right leaning conservative family around you, maybe not introduce it to them. Especially if you're in a position where you're worried about your safety.
Yeah, that's really what it comes down to, like how is your safety compromised or not compromised by it? Like if you're living on your own, it's a lot easier to kind of like keep people at a distance and have that. If you're living with somebody, it's much harder because, well, you know, like your kind of well-being and your day-to-day life is going to be directly impacted by however that goes. So yeah, it's going to be very dependent on just what feels safest for you. And
yeah, and it would be if you were making the ultimate decision to finally introduce your femme voice and like come out to your family and all that, maybe have a confidant with you, maybe have someone who's emotionally supportive of you, maybe have someone who's like can be there to help keep you safe.
Yeah, have somebody on your team.
For my voice feminization, I found it helped that I had tried to masculinize my voice before, so I knew that I could probably push it in the opposite direction. Hell yeah, Tawny. We're gonna wait for the ad break to end before we wrap up today's episode.
Okay.
I am gonna be continuing to stream after today's episode. I wanna play a little bit of retro game for a little bit. But again, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Happy I could have you. I like doing these. I like having these varied episodes now where, like, okay, this is an episode where it's just a one-on-one. This is an episode where it's more round table. This is an episode where it's pure chaos because I have 4 people on screen. It's been so fun to do this podcast and, like, help people out. And, like, on the Transcriber server, like Noelle said the other day, which kind of, like, made me tear up a little bit, like, the fact that Neon watched one episode and, like, learned more in that 1 hour than from, like, 20 different tutorial videos and all that. Because, like, the main goal is just to try and make it understandable.
Yeah.
Like, going from, like, an artist's perspective and all that, not everyone is going to understand.
Let's do the bean. Let's do the Proco bean. Let's do the Loomis method.
I hate those 2 methods.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, it's a specific way to try and draw the torso that just makes it confusing for me, and I don't want to think about it. And it's a very, very convoluted way to draw the head that puts more steps into setting up all of, like, the major points of, like, okay, you're just measuring out the stuff on the head, and I don't want to do that. I just want to do the cross. I want to do the circle. I want to do the mask. That's it.
Right. Actually, I have read that book. I did read that guy's drawing book. So I do know what you're talking about. And yeah, that gets that stuff like that can get, like, it can be too confusing in its own right, and then, like, it just becomes like you're not really learning how to draw. You're learning how to, like, just understand this one method that's not helping you maybe understand the components of what you're trying to do, which is really what it's supposed to.
Yeah, and that's the ultimate goal of this podcast. Like, I'm not a licensed professional, but if I can give you some tips and tricks and give you a couple of, like, little cheat codes to help you find out your own methods, like, don't just use my methods. Take lessons from my methods and find a way that makes it comfortable for you. That's the goal. But I think this is a good point to wrap up today's episode. Alicelunazera, thank you so much for being here once again. Would you like to talk a little bit about any big projects you're working on, or anything big that's coming up for you?
Oh, big project. I mean, like, I'm still working on more videos. That's kind of my main thing right now. Just more YouTube videos. I am working on, like, a new Vtuber model completely. So I guess that's been my, like, ongoing, like, big thing I've been doing, which has been a lot of 3D modeling and
3D
texturing. Yeah. 3D, but, like, working from, actually at this point it's going to be completely from scratch.
Wow.
Or at least, like, using a couple assets for the body and the face to start off, but, like, I just recently finished modeling the hair out myself, and I really like how it turned out.
Man, all the effort that goes into modeling and rigging is terrifying.
It's a lot. It definitely counts as a big project.
I'm working on getting a new model myself soon, but it's mostly not like a new model, and, like, entirely new model, like 3.0. It's more like a new outfit for this current design. Like,
cool.
we're keeping the shape language of the current design, but we're going more monster.
Ooh.
Which I'm raising money
I like
for on Ko-Fi.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's been wonderful to have you here, and it's wonderful to have your community here. I'm happy I could help out some more people today.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to ask before we wrap up?
No, that's it for me.
Oh.
Thank you so much.
When it comes to tea and honey thing, look for throat coat tea.
Wait, throat?
Throat coat.
Throat
Throat coat.
Throat coat tea.
Because that's
Okay.
what a lot of voice actors use. Personally, I don't
Oh.
have any at the moment, so I use red tea with honey mixed in.
Okay.
It's kind of like a medicinal type of tea. Yeah. Throat coat is mainly licorice and slippery elm.
Okay, yeah, I will go get that.
Because that is like peak aftercare for your throat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alice, for being here today.
Yeah, of course.
And YouTube, thank you so much for watching this video. We will see you in the next one. See you in the next episode of the Transcribecast. And for YouTube, if you watched through this whole thing, let me know if you have any crazy experiences with your own recordings. We'll see you later, YouTube. Bye-bye.
Bye.